Hi everyone, it's Jennifer from Fiberflux. In this video, I will show you how to bind off your knitting when you're knitting in the round. This is going to be a basic bind off. There are other ways to bind off. I'm just going to show you a very basic bind off. And it's very similar to when you're knitting flat, but I wanted to show you how to work it in the round as well. So here I'm making a project and I'm ready to bind off. I'm using circular needles and I've come to the last row and I'm ready to bind off. More than likely, when you're working in the round, you'll be using a stitch marker. So when you come to your stitch marker and you're ready to finish and bind off your project, you can simply remove your stitch marker. And as a side note, when you're working with large needles like I am here, binder rings from the office supply store make great stitch markers, and they have a little hinge on them, so they're removable as well if you need them to be, just as a side note. So you'll remove your stitch marker, and then you're just going to bind off as you normally would when you're knitting flat, and we'll be removing this circular needle as we go around. So all you're going to do is knit a stitch, knit another stitch, and then the first stitch that we just knit, we're going to reach back, lift it up and over and off of our knitting needle, just like that. So to bind off the rest of our project, we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to be sliding this around our circular needle. You can do it the same way for double pointed needles as well. So knit one stitch and then lift, go back, reach back, lift up, over, and off. Knit one stitch, reach back, lift up, over, and off. So we're just going to keep doing this basically until we run out of stitches. If you've done a bind off on a flat knitted project, you'll find this is pretty much the same thing, except for our circular needle will be configured a little bit differently than flat needles. So I'm going to let you bind off a few stitches and then we'll rejoin in just a moment. As you can see, the project is starting, get this strand out of the way, the project is starting to come off the needle. It's still connected, we're still working in the round, but it's starting to come off of the needle. So we'll do a few stitches and then we'll rejoin in just a moment. So we're just continuing to bind off all of our stitches. And I wanted to just stop for a moment and show you the progress that we've made so far. So let me get my yarn ball out of the way. So you can see my circular needle is getting more empty and our cowl is coming right off that needle. So we're about, I would say, a little more than halfway done. So we're just going to keep working these stitches, binding off until everything is off the needles. And basically, the cowl, as you work, you'll need to kind of slide it around so the stitches are coming up to you. Okay, so we're going to just bind off some more stitches and rejoin again in just a moment. So we're just about done binding off our project. Our circular needles are almost completely empty, as you can see here, and we just have a few more stitches to go. In fact, we have 3 more stitches left, and then our project will be complete. So we're doing the very last stitch. So you have 1 stitch left So what you can do is just cut the yarn, and you don't want to cut it too short because you need to weave this end in. You can carefully slip your needle off and pass that end through this loop. Remove your circular needles. So you can put these aside. And our project is complete. When you're finished, you can weave in your ends. We'll have 2 ends here, and you'll be totally finished. So that is how you bind off in the round. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the red subscribe button to get all the latest Fiberflux video updates. Thanks again.